Hi, it is a Wednesday, November 11th, and it's been a long time since I've done one of these video updates, but this week the Portage Church of Christ has decided to go virtual just to take some precautions in light of the virus, and so as such, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to give a little bit of encouragement today since we're not having our normally scheduled Wednesday in-person Bible classes. First, just wanted to do something I used to do all the time and realized since my kids have been back in school and we've been back in person at church that I haven't done a lot, and that is give you an update. Believe it or not, if you've been keeping up with our Bible writing program, we are on week 45. That is a program that I actually came up with, a couple of key verses each week that we can write out and commit to our meditation that week. These all are passages that relate to our yearly theme of working with God to build His kingdom. And the particular passages that we're writing out today come from the book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verses 9 through 12. So hopefully you're able to write through those with us. And if you haven't been keeping up with it, we're on week 45, but we got to go all the way to week 52. So there's plenty of verses left for you to write. And it's, of course, something that we'll do again next year. With a little bit different plan, and looking forward to that as well. And in our daily Bible reading program, we are reading through the Old Testament in a year. Now, I understand life is busy, maybe with school and work and COVID and who knows what else. Maybe you've fallen behind in our plan. Our plan actually comes from abibleaday.com, and it is organized to read through the Old Testament in a year. Now, this is something that it doesn't go straight in order, but it attempts to alternate between different sections of the Old Testament, maybe to keep our interest well. If you only read the prophets straight in a row, or only read poetry straight in a row, it might be kind of dull, I guess, or maybe just overwhelming was a better word for it. So we are in the prophets again, in Zechariah, and I understand Zechariah is challenging. We are in Zechariah chapter 3 and 4. But from our reading today, I'd like to just bring out a few messages that might be particularly relevant. So Zechariah is a prophet who wrote after the captivity. The people had come home, celebrated, they were excited with their governor Zerubbabel, who was actually a descendant of David, and in other circumstances would have been the king if it weren't for what happened in captivity. And also the high priest, a guy named Joshua, or Jeshua, depending on which scripture you're in. He is the high priest at the time. So they return from captivity. They decide to get started on constructing the temple. It was supposed to be the center of their religious and social life. And enemies frustrate their plan. They get the foundation built, but nothing else. And 15 years go by. And so God, He sets out to help the people build again through the efforts of two prophets, Haggai and Zechariah. And where Haggai is a straightforward, simple, sort of motivational speaker type, Zechariah is very visionary. And his style is that he sees dreams and visions, sometimes that are very strange in their symbology, but they point to the future. And so maybe think about like the idea of a visionary prophet and the value of that. It's not just, hey, get out there, do this thing, get to work. But someone says, hey, if we get to work, here's what we got good coming in the future. Here's where I see us 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Here's where we see us in a generation. And that's really what Zechariah's job was. Now, in Zechariah 3, he sees a really interesting vision. It's like a scene in heaven, and it's actually Joshua the high priest, and he's dressed in filthy garments. He's not dressed like a priest. Priests had a very special way they had to dress in order to present worthy sacrifices before God. And Satan is doing exactly what his name in his original language means. Satan is an accuser. You might think about him as a prosecutor, and he is prosecuting the priest, saying, this guy is unholy, he's unclean, he's unfit to be your high priest. And so this is a very upsetting circumstance, but we find the good news that God is able to make Joshua clean and pure and holy. He gives him clean garments. He gets him ready to serve in the temple, to offer those sacrifices. And he says as long as he does the right things and he stays holy, he's going to serve forever. It's interesting that the Greek name for Joshua is Jesus. And so I really think there is a symbology here that Jesus is going to be high priest. Obviously, Jesus didn't have flaws and things that needed cleaned up, but it's the idea that there's going to be someone who is a priest forever, who is holy and clean. And I think that's a powerful image. Now, later on in that chapter, we read about someone who's coming. Because God, he has a plan to clean up people, to purify them, to make them holy. He's got to do that somehow. And he's going to do it through a guy they call Branch. And the idea is that he is from the shoot of Jesse. Think about maybe a tree that seems like it's cut off, but yet it sends up a new shoot. And that new shoot ends up having life. There was life in the roots all along, but the tree looked dead until this new shoot came up. And this shoot becomes a branch, and the branch is the one that rules. And there are many New Testament references back to this type of Old Testament imagery, which is found here in Zechariah, as well as Isaiah and Ezekiel. And the idea is this life-giving branch bears fruit. And that's who Jesus is. So let's back up. How is this going to help him build a temple? Well, he's telling them, hey, you may feel like you're unworthy. You may feel like nothing can ever be accomplished. But someday in this temple that you're building now, the true life-giving servant of God is coming. And he's going to rule. He's going to reign. And that is Jesus. So you may feel like your work is not really going to amount to much. You may feel like you can't accomplish a whole lot. You may feel like your efforts are in vain. But the truth is, when God cleans you up and makes you holy, there's nothing that you can't do for him. And through the righteous branch, we can be attached to him, right? Remember in John 15, he says, I am the vine, you are the branches. We actually get to branch out from him and bear our own fruit as long as we're attached to that great righteous branch. And the next chapter, chapter 4, also in our reading, there are really weird symbols and visions, but one thing that really sticks out to me here, he points out how it seems like with Joshua and Zerubbabel, the two leaders of the people, it might seem like nothing, that nothing's going to accomplish it. But God says it will. These guys will build the temple. These guys will worship. And it'll happen. When God says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. They're going to build up the house of God. But in there's this little phrase. It says, who has despised the day of small things? And I've always really latched on to that. It's resonated with me. The day of small things, a small effort. Maybe you can't give a large amount of money. Maybe you can't give a large amount of time. Maybe you feel like you don't have a large amount of talent or knowledge or something like that. And we feel our efforts are so small and we wonder what is the value. But who has despised the day of small things? Small things are big in the kingdom. A cup of cold water to a little one. The widow's 2 mites. Someone who simply opens up their mouth about the truth. That is someone who's great in the kingdom. Those who are least in the kingdom are going to be the greatest. And so we may feel like our efforts to build our family or our own spiritual life or even the church in Portage here, we may feel like we're not accomplishing much. Maybe we count up how many people we've talked to or reached or had successes with in Bible study. But we're measuring things wrong. We understand that God sees true growth. God understands true growth. And sure, you may be dirty, he can clean you up. You may be feeble and frail, but he can make you strong. You may feel like you can't accomplish anything, but by his strength, you can. And so I guess that's just my message for this week. In the absence of our normal invitation at church, I just want you to know that while you may feel like a nothing, through you, God can accomplish big things. God didn't call the high and the mighty and the noble and the smart and the geniuses of the world to accomplish all of his things. He picked average people. And, it's not that you can't be smart or rich or famous and be a Christian, but God didn't go there first. God and his message particularly resonate with the humble, with those that rely on his strength. And honestly, that's why it's easier for the humble to become Christians, because they know they don't have the strength. They know they don't have the money. They know they don't have the knowledge or the skill. And so they realize they fully rely on God. Whereas someone else who has all those things is going to have a harder time realizing that without God, they're nothing. So that's my message for you today. I hope it's encouraging. I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy, and that we get back together in person soon. But I do love you all, and I'm thankful for your care and concern for each other. And so have a good night. God bless.